Yo, today we have another newsletter called The Importance of Islam to Me, an insight into my beliefs. This was written on the 9th of December. So, again, it's been quite a few months since then. So, it's going to be very interesting to go through this. And I vaguely remember what I wrote, but it would be very good to see what I had to say. Hopefully, it's of value to someone watching this video, and we'll get right into it. I was born a Muslim and I always believed in Allah. I didn't know much about my religion growing up. However, I would pray occasionally, fast every Ramadan, go to the Friday prayers when I was not at school, and go to the Eid prayers. I think that I was occupied with the daily things that would come up, worldly matters. Although I would come to question my faith when people had asked me why I believe. And when I see others engage in religious discussions, I was a Muslim, but I didn't know much about Islam or the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him. It's very true. I grew up like the average Muslim living in the West. You know, I grew up in the UK. I was born and raised in Oxford, and pretty much I didn't know anything about Islam. I just knew enough to kind of pray and do the minimum requirements. And like how I mentioned, when Islam came up in a discussion, I would feel threatened because I didn't know anything. Even when I was young, I would just try my best to make sure the conversation doesn't lean on me, because I just have to own up to it. I didn't know anything. And that is really what my upbringing was like. I did believe in Islam, but I just didn't know much, and I just did the minimum. This changed in May of 2022. My older brother had a copy of the English translation of the Quran, and I would delay reading it for over a year. I would pick it up and read a little bit, but I never continued. And this was ongoing for almost a year, I think. I had been coming in and out of uni, and I would read 2 or 3 pages, and then I would just go back to uni and just give up and just forget. During my university years, I would travel from my uni city to my hometown for Ramadan, and after Ramadan ends, I would go back. Now, before going back for my exams in May 2022, I asked my brother for the copy of the Quran, but it turned out that he had given it to a guy that he had worked with who was interested in Islam, but he didn't return it back. And I just say Subhanallah, which means all glory to Allah, to God, that if he had the book at the time, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have read it, because it was an ongoing thing with me and my older brother where he would give me the book, I would ask him for the book, he would give it to me, and I'll read one page, give it back. And I fell into that pattern a few times, and him not having that book was was honestly the biggest one of the most life-changing things for me. And I feel blessed. And I feel blessed that he didn't have the book at the time. And like how I said, he had given it to someone that he worked with who was interested in Islam, and he didn't return the book back. Why would he not return it back? But in my sense, that helped me so much. So thank you, whoever you are, you mysterious person. So what I had done when I went back to Nottingham, where I studied, was order a copy of the English translation of the Quran, because I couldn't read Arabic at the time. Side note, I'm Sudanese. I'm a Sudani. So even though my parents' native language is Arabic, I didn't learn how to properly read and write Arabic after I read the Quran, which we will get to. And I think I'm quite harsh on myself when I say I can't read or write. I couldn't I couldn't read or write much at all, really. I can just speak the casual conversation. But the reason being why I say that this mysterious person that my brother gave the book to, not giving it back, was a blessing in disguise, was because I went out of my way when I went back to university to actually find the Quran on Amazon, research what the best translations are in English, and actually order one. And I wouldn't have gone, because I went through such a thorough process. I actually wanted to read the book at this point, because I invested so much time into finding the right book, ordering the book, going to the Amazon locker because I didn't trust my university accommodation with my stuff because they kept stealing stuff. I had to actually go to the Amazon locker and go through all of that. Oh, boohoo! I had a long process, but it was enough for me to want to actually read the Quran and realize and ask myself, what book is this? What exactly am I going to read? What am I going to find out? I actually read the Quran when it arrived, and I set a goal for myself to read this book and finish it. And one of the biggest resistances I faced was the shaitan, who is the devil. I feel that I was getting so much reasons to not read and to delay it and to not do it, but I just forced myself to go through the process because I knew there was a blessing that will come out of this, and I was right. Alhamdulillah, all praise is due to God. As I read the Quran, I decided to take it slowly because there was so much content I couldn't understand. And honestly, looking back now, I understand so much. But when I first read it, I just didn't know. It felt like an ocean, and I just got a drop of the ocean. I just got splashed with a drop, and I'm overwhelmed because there's so much. I took a pen and a highlighter and marked so many points of the Quran that I found interesting, important, or curious about. I thought I would not spend much time reading the Quran, but I ended up spending over a month reading it. And that is just the beginning of where my journey of knowledge seeking began. Yeah, I had found myself reading the Quran when I first read Surah Al-Baqarah, the cow. I was reading, but I was just kind of not understanding. So I restarted again, and I said, let me get a pen and highlighter, and I would check that it's okay in a sense to highlight and to draw to write on an English translation of the Quran. And at the time I had no bad intention. I just wanted to make sure I memorized the stuff I was reading, and I put sticky notes on pages I found important with the verses as well. And the whole point was for me to kind of let this sink in, because if this is going to be my one try, if I ever had one go at anything I had in life, I wanted to give this my best effort at fully understanding this to my ability. Meaning, let me say that again. I'll give my best effort to understand to my capability, and not try to give a low effort and just say, oh yeah, I read this book, I've read it, when I didn't give it my all. And this is what the book looked like. Just one page, and how the rest of it looked. A lot of it looked like this, where I had orange highlighting yellow, green, and highlighting certain words. And I was just doing it to make sure I'm reading and to make sure I'm trying to understand. After this, I would order more copies of the Quran, of the English translation, 2 more of Abdul Halim's translation, and big shout out to Abdul Halim that he had a very good translation that was easy for me to comprehend and for me to get attracted to what Allah had to say in the Quran, and actually learn Arabic later on to read the Quran in Arabic and see for myself, because this is just his translation, his understanding of what he had read and his translation. But when you read it for yourself, it's literally right from Allah's words. Go to a shop that sells Islamic resources and buy an Arabic Quran, prayer guide and dua guide, and order a book that includes the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ, peace and blessings be upon him. During the process of reading the Quran, I started watching YouTube content creators and Muslim speakers at Speakers Corner on YouTube. And this goes from if I was to name them, there's DUS Dawah, there's so many actually. There's Dawah Wise, there's so many out there, and especially the Speakers Corner cameramen, SE Dawah, Sam Dawah, SF Dawah, all of these that helped me kind of see what the YouTube side of Islam was. And people like Muhammad Hijab, Shamsi, Hashim, Mansoor, Ali Dawah, there's so many, Uthman ibn Farooq, Muhammad Ali. There's so many names out there that are just great speakers and very, very inspiring when I was kind of looking into Islam and seeing what Muslims had to say about it. This was eye-opening to see how much history Islam has, how much knowledge you need to acquire to learn even 10% of the religion, even 1%, even no, not 10%, even 1% of the religion, the Prophet's biography and his companion stories, etc. I also found out the topics that people would bring up to challenge Islam and saw how a knowledgeable Muslim should present himself and respond to the critics of Islam. This was a very informative way for me to understand the importance of Islam and how great of a religion it is. And I think almost all of the times I've seen Muslims speak in, in conversations or debates or wherever it was, especially speakers' corners, I was very proud of how they conducted themselves. And there's only a few times where I had seen it, I'm like, oh, come on, man, you shouldn't do that. But almost 95 to 99% of the time, I was proud and I felt happy that I was a Muslim, and that seeing another Muslim give me knowledge and everyone else watching get knowledge, and at the same time making us understand good manners also. I would like to go more in depth because I have only shared 40% of the story. So much more to share, the ups and the downs, but I will leave that for another time. Thanks for reading. And before I do end it, there is so much more of the story, and I don't think it's necessary for me to share, really. I think that individual stories, everyone has a story. Everyone has their own way that they came to it. Everyone has their ups and downs and their moment that everything clicked together. I think it's more beneficial if you seek the knowledge from the people of knowledge that have so much knowledge about Islam. And that's where I can point you that there are so many great people out there, the names of which you can ask around and you can look up, and the names I've mentioned in the video, they can give you a great pointers to like real people of knowledge. Because at the end of the day, I'm just someone who's just a Muslim that just got blessed with the ability to start practicing and to learn about my religion. And yeah, that's where I'll leave it. And this is the importance of Islam to me.